What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to My Social Life. This is the podcast where you can hear the real stories behind the people on social media. I'm your host, Jacob Kelly. And before we jump into today's conversation with Reezy Resells, there's a couple things that we need to go over first. Number one, if you enjoyed today's podcast, please consider leaving a rating and a review. The more positive ratings and reviews you get, the more it helps new people find the show and it really helps to grow the community that we're developing here. And if you're one of those people that have recently found the podcast, welcome. I'm very excited to have you here. Make sure you subscribe and stay tuned for future episodes. And to everybody listening, make sure you screenshot this, post it to your Instagram story, tag at My Social Life Podcast, and I'll feature you on the account and send you a message as well. Now, without further ado, let's get to my conversation with Reezy Resells. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to My Social Life. Today, I'm joined by Reezy Resells. And Reezy used to make his living off buying undervalued items, mainly books, and reselling them at full value. In the last 15 years, he sold over $5 million worth of goods. But today, he makes his main income off his social media and building his personal brand. And I'm very excited to have him here on the podcast today to talk about all of it. Reezy, welcome to the show.
What is up, Jacob? Thanks for having me, bro.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for taking the time to be on the podcast. So before we dive into the social media side of things, can you just kind of give people a little bit of context on your upbringing and then when you kind of got into the whole reselling and flipping game?
Yeah, so I grew up super poor, for lack of better terms, food stamps, welfare, government health care. I was a bad kid, neglected. My parents divorced at a young age, both been in jail and prison. I've been in group homes, foster home, lived with everyone in my family. I had been homeless, lived in hotels for a lot. And just growing up, I didn't have a super good life. I lived near this amusement park that was free, the boardwalk. Free to go in, but you couldn't have any fun. And because of that, and because I could never ask my dad for $1 or anything, I hustled really hard in there. I came up with all these scams on how to make money inside the amusement park, like to run little scams on the games and all this stuff. And that was the beginning of hustling for me. Then in school, selling candy and pencils. And we used to go to apartment complexes and steal the recyclables and then fill up shopping carts and push them a mile away and then go recycle them, for like $20, or steal people's flowers and try and sell them back to them, or their fruit, or buy one newspaper and pull all of them out of the machine and then go stand by the bus stop and try to sell newspapers for $1. Like, all different kinds of hustles. And that turned out later into life into selling on eBay when eBay was running commercials in the early 2000s, like 98, 99 or something. Sold a bunch of stuff on eBay, whatever my mom would let me sell. And then when we ran out of stuff to sell, we started buying stuff off eBay. Then I started learning more and more about how to make money on eBay. Actually found a woman, got married, had a kid, dropped out of high school when I was 16, all of them the same year. Started working full time and then realized I really hated the 9-to-5 life, right? I hated working for other people. And so I really wanted to hustle more and figure out how to make it more stable. And so I just pushed as much as I could. And eventually I started seeing people that were buying books at thrift stores. And they were buying a lot of books, and I was more than the average person would ever buy, and I would see them regularly at different stores that I was going to. And at the time I was only buying stuff I knew about, like electronics, video games, just stuff like that, antique stuff, just totally random stuff. And I would see them once in a while and they would have like a barcode scanner of some sort scanning them. And this was, mind you, before the iPhone came out, before YouTube came out and anything. So, and I'm technologically minded. So to see that and to see them, I'm like, oh, these guys must be making some money. Like, that barcode scanner got to cost like $100, $300. People don't buy stuff like that just to play around. So I was trying to ask them what they were doing and they would never tell me. They would clam up. And so I was like, oh, wow, this is serious. So I started looking into it more and more, and I finally figured out they were selling them on a place called Amazon, which I'd never heard of. And they were using different software. At the time, it was on Microsoft or on Dell PDAs, Axum X5. It's like a dinosaur thing with a compact flash. Like, you had to be a super nerd to figure out how to use it. Luckily, I am a super nerd, so that worked out for me. And so then we started selling books on Amazon, and that was a little over 15 years ago, the last time that was my last 9 to 5 job. I worked at a skate shop at the time, and we were selling books, and I was making some decent money, but I still needed more money to buy more books. I could buy more books, but I didn't have any money to buy more books because books don't sell very fast. They sell for good return. Like, you could buy it for a quarter or 50 cents and sell it for $10, $20, $50, $100. And most people think they're worthless, but they don't always sell overnight. It's like a catalog game, kind of like real estate or whatever. So I needed more money to buy books and it was working. And I actually convinced my wife. I was like, look, babe, I need to use our grocery money because it's the only extra money we had. We were check to check at the time. We had, what could we take out of our budget? You can't not pay rent or bills, at least not for too long, right? So I was like, grocery money. And growing up how I did, I knew that we could eat at the homeless shelter. We could get food from churches or whatever. And so that's what we did for a month. We ate at the homeless shelter and got food from the churches. That way I could take that 500 and use it to buy books every single day and roll it into our Amazon. We only had to do that for 1 month at the homeless shelter, but we would still keep going to churches getting food, and I would just keep reinvesting into Amazon. Eventually, one day my boss flipped out on me and I just quit. And since then on, I went full on into Amazon. I remember the first year full time, I had like 100 grand in the bank, and I had never had like 5,000 saved in my entire life. So I was living in an apartment that was like $1,000 a month. Needless to say, my lifestyle has changed a lot since then. The last probably almost 4 years ago, I happened to find a book one day that was called Crush It by a guy named Gary Vaynerchuk, and I had never knew who that was. Read the book, figured out who he was, realized I wasn't doing social media right, realized that I had, like a golden gift to give to people that would make them want to pay attention to me on social media. Started doing that. And here we are, 3.5 years later, and now I make more money off of social media than I do actually selling stuff on Amazon, even though I still do that. And what's more important than the money and crazier is that I now have it changed me a lot. I have a life of fulfillment or a sense of purpose and passion. Like I feel like I was supposed to do this. I was supposed to be here helping people, because what's the purpose of like me being here to make money? Like that's cool for myself, but to help other people make money and to like change their life and change their circumstances, like to help, I can't go back in time and help myself. We don't have a time machine, but there's plenty of kids that have parents that need my help right now. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what I'm doing. And it like transformed me. I used to be a really selfish person, and now I know that like really is the way is just to give, 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 and the universe just keeps giving back to you. It's amazing. So I'm super blessed to be, making over 6 figures a year off of social media, starting from scratch in about 3.5 years. And that's where we're at now.
Man, that is awesome. Like you truly have like an inspiring story, and you've eliminated any possible excuse anybody listening could have to starting or trying to go after whatever they're passionate about. Like after hearing your story, there's no other excuse that I would ever entertain as to why someone hasn't started. And before we dive fully into the social media side, there was one thing I wanted to ask you about. You mentioned how when you were a kid, you were coming up with all these hustles and stuff. And I wanted to ask you about hacking an ATM when you were 10 years old.
Oh, that's so cool. I'm glad you asked me about this. So I never actually have told anyone this like on YouTube or on record. So this is cool. It's just a tweet that you saw.
Mhm.
And that's awesome. So here's what happened. And I think we're past the statute of limitations. So I don't know if you've ever been, or if the listeners have ever been to a place that has an ATM where when you get your money out, you don't get money. You get a receipt that says take it to the nearest vendor to get your money. So that's how this ATM worked. And because it was on the property of the amusement park. At the time, I was like 10, maybe 11. I had just started getting into skateboarding and hanging out with the skateboard kids enough that I knew my friend's older brother and his friends loosely, very loosely. And I'd also seen this specific ATM many times. I had seen the door open with the guy servicing the ATM, and I'm very inquisitive. And I don't know if it's because I seen Terminator too many times or whatever, but I would always be asking the dude questions. He's like servicing the machine. Same thing when I would see people working on arcade games in the arcade. I would just ask them questions, like, what are you doing? What's in there? And I knew the layout of the machine behind the plastic of the ATM that you normally see. It had these buttons under the screen. So like picture the screen of the ATM. It's like a 6-inch cube or whatever. And there's those buttons on the right side that you could press or whatever. Behind the plastic, there's like service buttons under the screen that you can't touch when the case is closed. This specific day, though, that I was there, I noticed that the case wasn't locked properly or wasn't closed. It was loose. You could shake it back and forth about 1.5 inches from the screen, the whole front of the ATM. And so I was reaching into the thing and I was pressing buttons and figuring out how to navigate the menu. I was getting into the service menu and I was making it reprint tickets that it had recently printed. And then I was like, oh shit, these are reprinted. Like I can take these and go get money. But I was so young, I didn't have a bank account or anything. I didn't know if it was like legal for a kid to have a bank account or an ATM card so I had like a couple grand of them saved up in my pocket of these papers. I got like the higher receipts that I saw, the 300, the 500 ones. And I was like getting scared. I was going to go try and do it, but I was super scared. And then I seen my friend's older brother's friend, a random dude. And then I told him and he was like, oh yeah, it's on. Cause we were always running little random scams or whatever. So he turned him in for cash, came back, gave me my 1,000. We broke bread. He left. I spent the whole 1,000 in a day at the amusement park. I bought, a couple kids and myself annual passes to laser tag, ate all kinds of junk food, had like 10 kids with me. And we were just cashing $20 bills into tokens like nothing. And just like we were beating 4-player games in the arcade with actual tokens from the beginning to the end. And I didn't know who all these kids were. They were just the kids who were there that day. And I just kept putting tokens in the machines. Like it was literally the funnest thing ever. But at the end of the day, maybe I was just getting ready to leave and I got apprehended by some security guards. And they pulled me into the security office and they questioned me. And like I was super scared because I hadn't ever really been in serious trouble before. Thought I was going to jail. I think I thought they were real cops too. And they just couldn't figure anything out. And I was like, I kind of basically told them what happened and they didn't believe me. And they're like gonna let me go. And they searched me. I think I might have got scared and turned out my pockets. I don't think I needed to, but I didn't know my rights or anything back then. And in my pocket was a note with my friend's phone number because he was like, dude, that was cool. Like, hit me up sometime, Gave me his number and they just let me go as soon as they found that piece of paper in my pocket with that guy's number because they thought that there's no way I was the brains of the operation because I was like 10.5 or 11.5. They just let me go. Just let me walk right out. And I didn't get in any trouble at all. Nothing. Later, though, maybe years later, I seen that dude and he told me he got in some trouble. So I don't know. I was a little kid though. Like now that I'm 35 and I think about it, I kind of think that's how it was supposed to go. Like, what are you going to do to the 10-year-old that hacked the ATM? You just pat him on the back and you go get the only guy you can really get in trouble. You know what I mean?
No, I totally understand what you're saying. It's just cool. I really wanted to hear that story because I saw the tweet. It was recently you put that out, I think. And I was like, I need to ask him when he comes on the podcast
Yeah.
about that story.
No, it was super random, but I just remember I was so young and I never had any money back then. So I remember I bought a wallet just to put the money in and then spent all the money in the whole day before they apprehended me. I had nothing on me when they caught me. I had an annual pass to laser tag, me and a couple friends, and we continued to play laser tag all year long for free because it was a prepaid annual pass. But like, it was just, I didn't have the concept of saving money. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't know how I was thinking, but probably when I was like 25 or something, I started to be like, oh, you need to save a little bit of money, because you never know what's really going to happen. You know what I mean? You need a little bit, but just to think nowadays, like, that $1,000 is more money than I ever had. Like, there's no way if you gave me more money than I ever had right now, I would just go and blow it. That'd be the stupidest thing ever. But that version of me, that had never done anything or ever had that money, I was just like, fuck it, it's free money. like this could have not happened, but it did.
Yeah. And so that version of you wasn't necessarily good with money, but this version of you is, and you're teaching other people now how they can start making their own money. So I really want to talk about YouTube because would you describe YouTube as your main platform right now?
Yeah, YouTube is definitely the main platform. It's not what makes me the most money, but it's the main piece of the whole. It's like if it was Voltron, it's the head. You know what I mean? Like, even if the arm makes you more money, the arm's not doing shit without the head. You know what I mean? So, yeah, YouTube's definitely the most important. That's where everything starts at.
And I wanted to talk about when you first started your YouTube. You said about 3.5 years ago now. And I think I went back, and your first couple of videos was literally just you downloading your Snapchat story and uploading it, right? It's like, what kind of gear did you had when you first
Yeah.
started?
So for my first, I think about 100 videos, I did them all in Snapchat, and it honestly it really helped me. And I still tell people this. I made another video called like how to make a vlog easily, and it's just called shooting it in camera, which is basically how you build your Snapchat or your Instagram story, right? So it's a movie of your day, but you just record it as you go along, you know. And instead of a lot of people do this already. Some people have their story, which is just like kind of like, look at this, look at that. It's kind of like funny or whatever. But some people vlog on their stories, you know what I mean? It's like a different style. But all you have to do is vlog on your story. And if you don't like the take, delete it, redo it. And because of the nature of it being 15 seconds, 15-second clips, it keeps the attention. At least it used to be only 15-second clips. Even still now, you see those blips appearing and we're like trained to it. And you see a second blip and you're like, nah, it's not that important to have two blips. You know what I mean? And that keeps people's attention because people have like TikTok attention spans, right? Goldfish status. And so, and then it's easy to build. Like, don't tell me you can't make a movie, because I made my first 100 videos on YouTube in Snapchat just by on the selfie screen on, what was this, like an iPhone 6 probably, on Snapchat. Hold your phone in landscape mode instead of portrait. I know people are going to hate you for it, but just turn your phone sideways and vlog with Snapchat with your phone. At the end of the day, every day, set an alarm. I set an alarm. I had one. The alarm would go off, save your Snapchat story. Saved the Snapchat story. Then put it straight to YouTube. I think I actually had to rotate it first. And I have an app on my phone. I'd rotate it, then put it to YouTube, all from my phone, before I even knew about how to do like tags and titles properly or whatever. But to this day, many people tell me those are my best videos. Those ones, the super raw, before I was like trying to make them good. They're just good, I guess. I don't know. I can't explain it. It's, if you're not a YouTuber, you won't understand this, but it's super, or a content creator. It's like oftentimes the things you put a lot of work into don't work out. And then the things that you almost didn't even want to release because they're just so shitty in your opinion do really well. And people are like, this is your favorite thing you ever did. And I'm like, fuck my life. Like,
Yeah, and that's like a big kick that I'm on right now, is just trying to tell people that the gear doesn't matter. It's all about the story and like what's in the content, not what it's made with, which like you
yeah,
just
well, but
justified.
yeah, and the thing is that it's hard to film a movie and to make it, and it takes time out of your day, and it affects your life, right? You don't just go to the park. If you're making a movie of going to the park, it's totally different than just going to the park, you know what I mean? But if you're willing to make that sacrifice, there's really no excuse. You have a phone in your pocket that can make great movies. And what makes you think, people tell me all the time, what camera should I get? I'm going to start YouTube. And I go, don't buy shit until you make 10 videos with your phone. And they're like, what do you mean? Why? And I'm like, because if you can't make 10 videos with your phone that you're proud of, what makes you think you're going to make a video when you get a camera and it's harder to use and harder to operate? Like, the goddamn phone cameras are so good now. I think I'm going to start vlogging just with the freaking iPhone 11.
Yeah, no, it's crazy the power of like just the technology in your pocket now. And I think of my recent, you're at over 128,000 subs now, right?
Yeah, something like that.
So from that time when you were doing the vlogs on your Snapchat to now, what are some things that you've done to grow your account?
Oh man, a lot of stuff. So I kind of started my thing on Facebook, and leveraged that attention to the YouTube, and then that's kind of how I started it. And obviously, you use Instagram and you got to drive it, and you got to do all these, you got to learn all the little hacks for YouTube, all the SEO stuff. Like, I use Morning Fame for research. I also use TubeBuddy, but not for research, just for their bulk editing features. But still, like, you have the plugins for that, or vidIQ, and you need to make sure everything's on point. You need to start your videos with the title in mind, and the keywords and shit before you even start filming. Like, what keyword you like search the auto suggest thing on YouTube. You're like, okay, here's the where I want to rank for. Here's the videos that are showing up. Like, okay, I could do good here. Now let's make a video that will get in there. You know what I mean? Versus making a video and then trying to like wrap the title and tags around the video. It's a lot harder. You know what I mean? Um, but getting shout outs from Gary Vee or from other people, that's like super huge. So like reaching out to people, I would say, like people are like, how did you get connected with Gary Vee, or how did you reach out with Gary Vee or whatever? And basically what I did was I just like I made it so he couldn't ignore me, right? So like he would see, because I was a big fan of his and I talked about him a lot and we had similar things in line, my fans would start tagging me and him in the same post. So he would start seeing my shit second nature like that. I would turn on notifications for all his posts on all platforms, and I would try to be the first person there every single time, right? And like leave relevant comments. And then I would be on the live stream. I'd be answering other people's questions because you know how there's so many questions he can't answer them all. I'm answering other people's questions. People are asking stupid questions. I'm answering those too. All of these things. And then eventually, you know, he gives me the shout out. I was like, yo, can I use this on my YouTube videos? I put it on my intro to my YouTube videos for like a while till I feel like I graduated out of that. And it just, you know, everything just kept going. But really, it's just a continuous slow grind on YouTube that has these pops that just happen that I would like to say, you know, I know what I'm doing, but I think there's still like a getting lucky element of it. It's like, it's stupid to say you're getting lucky on YouTube, but it's because you put the work in of the volume. You're just increasing the chance, you know, that you're going to do good. So a continuous volume of content being pushed out on YouTube will, if you're good enough, pay your bills. And then, you know, at least at some level. And then you get the once in a while magic videos that the algorithm picks up that, you know, boom, grows your channel by 10,000, you know, and now you're making 10% more or whatever it is. And it just, at least that's my experience. I'm not going to say I'm an expert, but it's just continuous work and just, you know, researching what people want to make or want to know about, you know, what does your audience want to see? How can you give it to them? What has worked in the past? How can you repeat it? You know, trying to look at trends that kind of fit into your niche and then putting them out on YouTube. Honestly, I don't know. I would just say, just put videos out and find out what people like and just keep making, you know, as many videos as you can, and all those little things you can do, like replying to your comments. And don't just reply. Like there's like people don't realize that social media is like a job, right? So it's like, don't just reply to a comment, and this is for any platform, and make it genuine, right? But don't reply to a comment in a like an answer that just ends. Reply in a way that, you know, suggests more communication, you know, via like either asking a question or making a statement that's polarizing, right? Because then what happens is people see it and then they respond, and now your one comment turned into 10 comments. And if you try to make that on everything, you're really going to scale the amount of engagement that you get on your posts. You know what I mean? There's a billion little things, and and it's always changing. That's the beauty. You know what I mean? So you just need to pay attention to people like Gary Vee, or, you know, other people that are in your niche and have your little private mastermind groups, you know, like what kind of keywords or trends are popping right now. Like, and just keep putting the work in, you know?
So you mentioned how when you first started, Facebook's where you kind of built up your audience at first and you were funneling them over to YouTube. So from your experience, would you say if it's someone that's trying to establish themselves online, would you say really kind of going all in on one platform to learn it properly and to scale there to then push to other platforms is best? Or should they try and do all platforms and try and grow them at the same time?
I think with today's day and age, you have to do all platforms. But you should focus on the one that you over index on. So whatever you're better at or whatever works better for you, you know, maybe you do YouTube and Instagram and Facebook, but for some reason, and none of them are like crushing it. You know, you got a couple thousand followers, but on TikTok, you have 112,000 followers and your videos get 50,000 views. Keep pushing the TikTok. You know what I mean? Like put out a shitload of content on TikTok. Keep putting out one video a week on everything else, you know what I mean? But put out daily videos on TikTok and try and drive that traffic over there. But that reminded me of another really good tip to grow your social media, and that is, especially, well, in my niche, like education, or the whatever, the bigger niche, not necessarily YouTube education, but if you're a YouTube educator and you know your shit, when you start up your YouTube, of course, make your shit so it's good, put out your 10 videos, but as soon as your channel looks like legit, you got like 10 or 20 videos, you know it's good, your artwork's good, start going on the comments of other YouTubers in your niche, like from the medium to the upper to the super upper range, and answer all their comments before them. Like, ruthlessly spend hours a day providing very helpful and insightful answers to everybody's questions and comments on all of them. Do you know what I mean? Because each one of those people are slacking on, I'm doing it too, someone could do this to me. You know what I mean? That's all equity that can be gained. You know, when you answer someone's question, it didn't cost them anything. You're gaining like social equity. They're like, thanks. And so you get that thanks. You know what I mean? Well, that's what I did on Facebook. I started up my own Facebook group page, YouTube, and then I went into everyone else's Facebook group and answered all the questions that weren't being answered, and demonstrated that I knew my shit and was even smarter than like the people who were well respected that were in that area. Not doing it in a snide way or anything, but like, honestly, was getting kicked out of Facebook groups because people were like, yo, he's just going to steal the flock. You know what I mean? And that's how you got to do it. Just give it all away for free and go where everyone else is, and people will just magnetically come to you. You know what I mean? So that's like something that I still need to work on myself. Like, I've been thinking like, oh, there's a lot of channels in the reselling niche, but not necessarily all of them are like full-time Amazon. Like, a lot of them are just like, you know, some moms that want to make some money on the side, or like, I don't know, just like some random niche fringe stuff that's related, but I want to go in there, but they have like 250,000 followers. You know what I mean? And I want to go on there and then just start replying to the unanswered questions and drive traffic back to my YouTube. You know what I mean?
Hmm. And so now with YouTube being like your main platform in terms of like you said, it's like the head of Voltron. What are the supplemental like platforms you're focusing on as well? Like, is that Facebook group still a big part of your strategy? You're focusing more on Instagram. Like after YouTube, kind of how does your strategy devolve after that?
So YouTube is the main spot. Then I have my podcast. Then obviously I have the Facebook group, which is free. All the stuff's free. The Patreon is a huge component of that. I make more off Patreon than I do off of YouTube. So that's like my private 100-member group of people, right? And so they get close, quick access to me, insider secrets, stuff you can't put on YouTube. You know what I mean? You can't share everything, especially when your channel's about business. You know what I mean? But so we have the Patreon, we have the YouTube, we have the Facebook, um, working on the Twitter, growing that out. But and really right now, I would like to say that the ones that are making me money right now, which is basically YouTube, podcast, and Patreon. And YouTube's making me money in two ways, because YouTube AdSense, and then also I sell sponsored videos on my YouTube channel. So those are the most important, because they're giving me money, and I'm at the point now where my influence is growing and I can't continue to grow it myself. You know what I mean? Like, things are happening where, like, say I get a crazy boost of traffic in the next week for some whatever reason, because the algorithm, I can't really capitalize on it as much as I could myself, doing everything myself. So now I'm starting to have to build out a team. You know, I want to have a content calendar and a schedule, and 3 of these a week and 4 of those a week and 2 of those on Facebook, and transcriber and a translator and a guy to follow me on video. All this shit costs money, right? And so of course I'm making money, but in order for me to reach more people, and like, I want to be on the Ellen show. Like, I want the whole United States, and I guess the world, but specifically my home country, to know that if you hate your job in your life, like, you can do this reselling shit. I can teach you for free. You can figure it out, I promise you. And you can go to yard sales, thrift stores, flea markets, and for next to nothing on your spare time on the weekends, you could probably do 100,000 gross if you really wanted it and you really worked hard. You know what I mean? But for me to get there, I got to be much more official. I need to like be seem even bigger than I am. I got to fly to more places, go to more events, do more networking. All this shit costs money. So for me, those things are the focus. Um, but I love doing YouTube. I love making videos. I love going live on YouTube and just helping people out. I do like call-in shows and stuff. So I don't know. I really don't know. I don't have super like detailed plans of where I'm going, but those are the most important because I think that's going to allow me to build the team out to like create the roadmap. You know what I mean? Because up to this point, it's just been me winging it. If I haven't posted on Instagram for 4 days, which is terrible, it's just because I haven't, had the time to do it or haven't been inspired to do it or whatever. But then I'll come back, the next day and post 3 or 4 times in one day because I'm just on it. But that's stupid of me. You know what I mean? That's bad. I should have spent those out for the next 4 days, or get it so I can post 3 every single day, um, and that's where I really want to get. I want to build like a little baby team Gary V or baby VaynerMedia that can help me do all these things. And then maybe I can help. I can't afford really to pay all those people like what they're really worth, but I can give them other opportunities and lift them up and maybe build that into my own company too and start giving them, opportunities as we bring clients in to help them do what they're doing for me once we figure out how to do it all. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I totally understand. I think that plan is awesome. And I have complete and total faith that you'll get there because just knowing where you started and where you've gotten to today, I don't doubt at all that you'll be able to keep growing, keep progressing until you're at that point and you've succeeded everything you've described. I have every expectation that you will hit it just based off everything you've achieved thus far. But I know we are over time. So I'm just going to jump to the last question of every single podcast. And I'd like to flip the script a little bit. And if you had a crystal ball that could show you the answer to any question, what is one question you would want to know the answer to?
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I don't want to be shallow and be like, "Oh, what's the lottery numbers?" I would say, wow, this is such a deep question. I guess I would want to know what steps are necessary for me to become the best version of myself possible.
I like that, man.
If that's a question.
No,
I feel like the crystal ball would have some rules. It'd be like, wait a minute. Wait.
I mean, I don't think I created the crystal ball, so I'm going to say that question counts.
Awesome.
Awesome, man. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to be on this podcast. I know you're very busy, so I appreciate you giving me 30 minutes of your time. I want to give you the floor. Where can the people find you? Plug everything and anything that you got right now.
You guys could find me anywhere. Reezy Resells, REEZY Resells, reezyresells.com. Grab a copy of my free intro to Amazon course if you ever wanted to sell on Amazon. And this also covers a little bit of eBay intro. Go grab it. It will take you 2 to 4 hours to consume it. It's completely free. And after that, you will be ready to get in the game and start making some money, or at least you'll be ready to ask the proper questions. Besides that, hit me up on Instagram. If you guys have any questions, tune into my Monday night live shows on YouTube at 6 Pacific Standard Time, where you can actually call in and ask some questions on the phone or in the chat. And check us out on the podcast. I know a lot of you guys are busy like me and you can't really listen or watch videos, but you got to drive, you got to work out, you're making dinner or whatever, throw the podcast on. Appreciate it.
Awesome, man. I want to thank you once again for coming on the show. And I want to thank everybody for listening. Whether you've listened the entire way through or you've only listened to bits and pieces, I really appreciate you taking the time to check this out. Everyone, do me a favor, go and follow Reezy if you want to know how to make a couple extra dollars, or if you want to learn how you can leave your job and make your own money. Definitely check out Reezy. I'll make sure everything is linked in the show notes down below. And if you'd like to follow me, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at the Jacob Kelly. Feel free to come and say hello. My DMs are always open. And if you'd like to follow the podcast, you can find us on Instagram at My Social Life Podcast or by searching up My Social Life on YouTube. Thank you once again for listening, everybody. We'll talk soon.